Hello, I'm Jill Fielding, and this is what's caught my eye in the media this week. Well, first of all, we've had the Sunday Times Rich List published for this year, and it turns out that Rishi Sunak and his wife, Ashkata Murty, are in the list this year, and they are apparently worth 730 million. I mean, it's not really that much because 690 million of it is the value of Akshata's shares in her father's company, but that still leaves 40 million that they've accumulated for themselves, and I think good luck to them. Now that's created an outcry because people say, how can he be a chancellor if he's that rich, because he's not in touch with the people? Well, I'm not sure I want him to be in touch with the people, because the general people are really bad at money. The average person is in debt, they can't meet their financial obligations, and they retire having to rely on the state. I don't want a chancellor that does that. I want a chancellor that has experience at making money, in handling money, in being good with money. That's what I want for my chancellor, and he clearly has that and has the evidence that he's done that. It's like saying that you advertise for a dentist and you say it's got to be somebody who's got rotten teeth. You don't want that. You want somebody who's good at money to be in control of the country's finances, not somebody who's bad at it. So I'm really pleased that he's on the rich list, because it proves he knows how money works. We've also just recently had the biggest Euro lottery winner. They've won 184 million pounds a couple, and I just hope that they can handle it, because lottery winners can have a good time and have a bad time. And we've had some terrible circumstances. There was Michael Carroll, who won an awful lot of money and managed to lose it all and go back on the dole. We've had Lee Ryan, who managed to lose it all and end up in jail because he took to stealing cars to fund his lifestyle. So money can be a blessing, but it can also be a curse if you don't know how to handle it. And you need to learn how to handle it before these things happen to you, such that when you get the big changes in your life, whether they be positive or negative financially, you know how to handle it, and you've got a system that copes with money flows. And the principles of understanding money are simply being aware of what comes in and what goes out, being able to budget money, being able to control and manage debt, understanding the future value of money, and of course taking responsibility and control for it. And if you've already got all those things in place, when these lottery wins happen or you get a financial difficulty, you've got a structure and a system to cope with it. So I do hope these new lottery winners have got some financial savvy, and I wish them well. Now, I thought about a different definition of financial freedom this week when I read that in China, people with 3 or more children are allowed now to buy a second home. I'm not sure whether the Chinese government thinks they need the spare bedroom or what. And for China, it's a methodology for increasing their population, because they now want people to have lots of children. Having once said you could only have one, they now want them to have lots of children. And one of the incentives is allowing them to buy a second home. And of course, in the UK, we're fortunate enough, we're blessed enough to live in a free society and a free economy, where if we want to buy a second home, we can, or a third home, or an investment portfolio, we can, or we don't have to prove to anybody how many kids we've got or what else we do. And that's really the definition of financial freedom. And that's having the freedom to choose what we do, to invest if we want to save if we want to spend if we want to. And that's a definition of financial freedom. And of course, once you have that financial freedom, you are then free to make yourself financially free. So just a nice reminder there of what positives we have in the UK. And of course, it's the Queen's Platinum Jubilee this week coming, and there's been lots of things written in the newspapers about what's happened over the 70 years that she's been on the throne. And there's lots of interesting property stats for sure. And when she was crowned in 1952, the average property was £1,931 and equated to about 4 times the average male salary. And I say male salary specifically because men earn a lot more than women in those days. Not quite such a large differential nowadays. But on the property prices nowadays, the average property is about 260 odd £100,000. And that's nearly 5 times higher than in 1952, once we adjust the 1952 figures for inflation. So property is 5 times more valuable than it was in 1952 and equates to about 8 times the average earnings rather than 4. And of course, the base rate has changed. We moan a bit about the base rate being 1% now, but when in 1952 it was 4%, and it actually reached 17% in 1979. 17%, that's amazing. And people moan about 1% now, you know, get over it. 1% is really, really low. During the 70 years since 1952, property prices have only fallen twice. Once in the general recession between about 1989 and 1995, and again in the financial crash of 2007. But of course, the property prices have recovered past all of that and are now at their highest ever level, showing that property will, over the long term, continue to rise. And one of the reasons that property prices do keep going up is the lack of supply. And again, if we compare 1952 with today, we know that that's hugely different. In the 1950s and in the 1960s, we built somewhere between 300 and 400,000 new homes each year, and now it's half that if we're lucky. So demand has increased substantially since 1952, and supply continues to decrease because we don't build enough. And over the 70 years, properties prices have continued to rise past the 2 dips and out the other side, and is now at its highest ever level. So there's lots of things that have changed over the 70 years since Queen Elizabeth has been on the throne, but the increases in property prices haven't changed at all. Have a great week. Keep safe. I'll see you next time.